problems DJing, Riley. Can you talk us about that?
Yeah, you can experience a lot of problems with DJing depending on what kind of equipment you're using. The problems that I've encountered are sometimes because I'm running a MIDI controller essentially into a computer. There is an algorithm that dictates what the BPM is of a specific song and things like that. And there are problems with that. First off, if the song isn't a strict BPM, if it's more free-flowing, if it's actual like instrumentation from before a time where everything could be locked to a grid and time stretched, time warped and things like that. If you're playing a song that isn't strict on the beat, it will be really hard to kind of mix it. Not impossible, and it takes a level of skill to do that, but if you're not familiar with the song, maybe if it's a song request or something like that, then that can be quite hard to kind of work around. Also things like the BPM analyzer in the software that I'm using, just getting it wrong, either putting it in half time or not guessing the actual downbeat. And what you want to do a lot of the time is you want to find the beginning part of the song if you're trying to blend it in, like the beginning part of where it actually like comes in fully, and then set that as a cue point, and then you kind of want to match it up to the beat. So if the beat is da 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 da, you want to tap 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 play, and then from that point they'll be matched, and then you can use the faders to fade them in or do whatever you want to do from there, but then they'll be matched. But if that cue point isn't on the actual first beat of the bar, then it will create a lot of problems, and sometimes you can't tell because usually your workaround would be to look at the waveforms and see where the peaks and the troughs are in the waveforms, but sometimes it will just get like the second beat of the bar or something like that, and it won't really make it obvious. The only real way around that is to know your set list, is to actually know. So if your software is mucking up and it's not quite getting the tempo of a song right, or if it's not quite getting the actual beats of the song right, if it's putting it on the hi-hats instead of the kick or anything like that, then it's just a matter of knowing that, so that way you can either compensate for that or you can adjust it or whatever you need to do. But yeah, there could be a lot of problems with working with the software because you're very reliant on it, but you just need to be quick on the draw, and you need to practice your set list so you know what could go wrong, and you can fix it as quick as possible.
What do you do if the set list isn't working, if the audience aren't responding?
Well, you have multiple set lists, I'd say, and have as many songs as you can downloaded. You also, I think the best way to curate a set list is to get inspiration from other people, and not just inspiration, but to ask the people around you, even the people that aren't DJs and are just likers of music and music fans, to be able to go, yeah, I wouldn't really dance to that. Oh, you know what? That's actually a really good tune, that is. And you might even discover. The fun part about it is the fact that you discover music you never even heard, or you might have heard when you were a kid, completely forgot about, and you got, I remember this tune. And then, you know what I mean? You incorporate it into your set list. You really widen your knowledge on music and your kind of catalogue. And that way, if it's not a themed night and people aren't responding to one theme, you can kind of go into a different genre, or not even a different genre, but you can kind of pull. You really have to read the crowd and see what they're responding to. So you really have to experiment as fast as possible, so that way you can then narrow it down to a science as quick as possible without it seeming like you're trying to, basically.
How would you deal with like a technical error that everyone would hear, like a skip or a jump or something like that? Would you let it go, or would you...
I think it depends how fixable it is. If it's fixable, it's fixable, but if not, then I would say it will never matter too much unless the music stops. So as long as you can get the other song playing as soon as possible, that's fine. Like if the mix is unsavable itself and you've cocked it right up, just let it play. You know what I mean? Just let the other one play, completely fade the other one out. If worst comes to worst, that is, and you can't mix it and you can't do whatever, because the main part, again, about DJing, especially what I'm doing, is trying to create one seamless loop. So the worst thing to do is go, no, I can get this mix perfect, let me go back and try it again. Just firm it, play the next song, and people will notice. But if you start cocking around and start proper making a big thing of it, then people will notice more. So you really want to go undetected in that regard.
So your DJ skills, how do you know it's working? Anything that you do specifically to ensure that you communicate with the audience?
I think the best thing to do is keep your eye on the crowd and cater what you're doing as a DJ to the music that you're playing. So for instance, if you're playing something that's very kind of old school, like then you might want to throw a couple of like fun effects in and things like that, but you look at what you're doing, because people can either get under creative with the effects that they're putting on songs and different fun little quirks that they throw in, or people can get too over creative and then you start ruining the song. You need to still keep the song coherent. You know what I mean? You need to still keep it so it is the original song, unless your goal is to create a new piece of music from the piece of music. But if you're DJing the way that I'm DJing, then you're gonna wanna make it so that if you are throwing in things like effects and things like backspins and vinyl breaks and things like that, it's subtle, you know what I mean? And it's tailored to the kind of genres that you're playing. I wouldn't necessarily put a bunch of vinyl spins on a rock song, but if I'm playing something kind of old school, you know what I mean? If I'm playing some like boom bap or something, you know what I mean? It might be quite fun, or even anything a lot more like upbeat, if it's in that kind of, if it's genre specific basically, and you need to kind of tailor to what you see for the crowd. So if you are going to throw in things like little quirks into the song, then you look at what the crowd are responding to that, and if they're liking it, you do it more. And then all of a sudden, if they're looking at you like you're a bit of a muppet, then you can slow it down a little bit, and you kind of tailor the experience to them. So just little things like that. Again, you mainly want to go unnoticed when it comes to mixing songs, but you can throw your little flair on it. But it's important to keep your flair subtle and not obstruct the actual music that's playing itself. So it's something very hard to kind of learn. It's a little bit like when you have something you want to show to someone, but you don't know if you throw it in their face and go, look at this thing that I did, or if you don't tell them at all, you know what I mean? You need to find a way to bring certain things into the spotlight that don't obstruct the main point.
Was there a time when you weren't very good as a DJ, and how did you know you weren't very good, and what did you do to improve?
I think I was too hesitant at one point. I think the best thing to do as a DJ, if you are gonna mess up no matter what, is to mess up proudly, as opposed to go oh no, you know what I mean? It shows, you know what I mean? But if you have a certain level of confidence in what you're doing, then when it does go wrong, then at least you're not sitting there like panicking, because that shows. And then you might mess up the next mix, and then the next mix, if you let it get to you and you let it get to your nerves and you go, oh, I messed up that one, let me try and do the next, you know what I mean? You just need to keep a level head. You just need to do it. So you like, no DJ is perfect. You will mess up things. Even to this day, I have messed up mixes, and you just gotta go, oh, well, you know what I mean? As long as you don't obstruct the flow of the songs too much, and inadvertently obstruct the flow of the songs more by trying to fix it, then you're still in the clear basically. So it's something that you have to learn, and that's something that it takes a while to get over. It's very dependent on where you're playing and who you're playing for. I've actually approached a number of places to DJ for them, and the first thing I ask them is, what are they looking for? Are they looking to bring in the same people they're already bringing in, just more often? Are they looking to bring in a whole new audience of people, like if you're playing in a pub or a bar? And it's almost like when you're in an interview for a job and you reverse the question onto the interviewer. You need to know what you need to play, because they ask you, what can you play? I can play what you need me to play, but I need to know what you need me to play, if that makes sense. So if you're looking to get a kind of an audience that would have grown up in the 90s around, then I'll play 90s. If you want to get an audience of people that grew up in the 80s, I'll play 80s. If you want to get a group of young people in, I'll play 2000s, 2010s, you know what I mean? If you want to get a diverse range of people in, I'll try and keep the genre as level as possible while playing a wide variety of different different eras of music, and that way everyone's kind of happy. And so I think that kind of goes on to what are you going to say next?
What about the variety, or?
Yeah, so again, it's about finding out if there is a variety of people that the people who are running the place that you're running the venue want, and finding out who they want to bring in, and then kind of tailoring the tracks that you're playing accordingly, because you're going to have set lists and things like that. You need to know who they're going to want to bring in and who they're going to bring in already. You know what I mean? If they were, because if I play an 80s playlist and I've got a bunch of people who don't listen to 80s in already, it's not inherently going to bring people from the people who enjoy 80s music down, because they're not there to hear it in the first place. So you need to kind of find a blend between playing things that people will enjoy and also branching out a little bit to bring more people in. So it's kind of a balancing act in that way.
What about health and safety?
Oh God, yeah. I've seen many mistakes happen with health and safety in different pubs and bars I've been in, where other people are DJing and things like that. Always keep your extension leads away from anyone that's dancing or drinking, or both, preferably. Wires, keep them tucked away, especially extension leads. God, the amount of awkward situations I've seen with that, where someone spills their beer or cider on it and fries the whole DJ deck, and it's not fun. Yeah, anything like that, keep your wires away, because people can trip on them, especially drunk people. If you're playing in a venue where there are drinks, make sure that if you're doing things like karaoke, if you're doing things like interactive things, it might help. It might help to buy a wireless receiver for your microphones as opposed to having them wired, unless they're being put in a fixed spot. But people are going to dance around when they're singing, especially if they're drunk, and they're going to sing poorly as well. So make sure you just turn the volume down a little bit.